It's not just about a bad burger anymore. It's about trust, broken at the drive-through window. For millions of working Americans, fast food was supposed to be the last reliable option. A hot meal when there's no time to cook, a cheap bite when the paycheck runs thin. But what happens when even that betrays you? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. And today, we uncover top 10 fast food chains that betrayed American trust. Let's begin. Number 1, Jack in the Box. With over 2,000 locations across the United States and more than 1 million customers served daily, Jack in the Box has long stood as a late-night staple. For generations of workers and families on a tight budget, it was always there, a place to grab something fast, warm, and cheap when every other option was closed. Its quirky commercials and anything-goes menu once gave it a charm. People eat there and they trust it. But behind the neon signs and catchy slogans lies a truth that's hard to swallow. Jack in the Box became infamous for one of the most catastrophic food safety scandals in American history. In 1993, over 700 people were sickened by E. coli from undercooked burgers, most of them children. 4 died. Many suffered permanent damage. That incident alone should have ended the chain for good. But somehow, Jack came back. And that comeback has been built not on accountability, but on pushing even further into the absurd. Take the stacked grilled cheese munchie meal, a greasy Frankenstein's monster of 2 tacos, a burger stuffed with cheese on all sides, and a mountain of curly fries, all totaling nearly 2,000 calories. That's almost the recommended daily intake for one meal, and the sodium and trans fat enough to send your heart into overdrive before you even get halfway through. The American Heart Association has publicly flagged Jack in the Box as one of the worst offenders when it comes to trans fat content. And let's talk about the menu. Burgers, pitas, teriyaki bowls, tacos. What exactly is this place trying to be? It's a jumbled mess of culinary appropriation, randomness, and cheap ingredients. There's no identity, no consistency, only chaos. And in that chaos, the customers pay the price. So while Jack in the Box still lures people in with low prices and late-night cravings, it's doing so at the expense of public health, consumer trust, and even basic food integrity. In the end, it's not just junk food, it's a junk promise, one that America can no longer afford to believe in. Number 2, Hardees and Carl's Jr. at its peak. This chain operated over 3,000 restaurants across the United States. Hardees in the East, Carl's Jr. in the West. 2 names, 1 company. They merged back in the 1990s, hoping to create a coast-to-coast burger empire. The ambition was clear, to stand shoulder to shoulder with giants like McDonald's and Burger King. But somewhere along the way, the food stopped speaking for itself, and customers stopped coming back. Across countless customer satisfaction surveys, Hardees and Carl's Jr. consistently fall behind. And it's not hard to understand why. Their burgers have been repeatedly described by customers and reviewers as dry, flavorless, and lacking any real beef taste, instead of a juicy, satisfying bite. You get a spongy texture and an aftertaste that makes you question if it was ever meat to begin with. For a brand that built its identity on flame-grilled indulgence, this is more than a failure, but an insult to the very idea of a hamburger. Despite numerous rebranding attempts, flashy packaging, and even racy commercials that sparked backlash, nothing has managed to pull the chain out of mediocrity. The food hasn't improved, the service hasn't wowed, and the overall experience feels stuck in a past that no one wants to revisit. Even their boldest ad campaigns, featuring supermodels and outrageous taglines, haven't disguised the truth. The food just doesn't deliver. Curiously, the brand still attracts a surprising amount of older customers. Some locations have become quiet meeting spots for seniors grabbing a cheap meal on a weekday afternoon. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's the last affordable place within walking distance. But it's not because of the food quality, because frankly, the food hasn't earned that loyalty. Hardees and Carl's Jr. had every chance to rise. They had the reach, the resources, and the recognition. But in the end, they served up disappointment, not value. The problem isn't the name on the sign, it's what's on the plate. Number 3, Papa John's. You've seen the logo, you've heard the name, for decades. This chain pushed itself into the American consciousness with the kind of aggressive branding that left little room for doubt. Better ingredients, better pizza. That was the promise. and with over 5,000 stores across the country. They managed to carve out a massive slice of the fast food pizza market. In many towns, they became the go-to fallback option when Pizza Hut or Domino's wasn't cutting it. But popularity doesn't always mean quality. And when it comes to Papa John's, it's exactly the opposite. Because despite the size and reach, Papa John's fails at the one thing a pizza place should never fail at, making pizza worth eating. The crust is bland and chewy. The sauce is sweet and forgettable. The cheese is greasy, thin, and lacking that rich pull that real mozzarella should offer. Customer after customer has echoed the same complaints for years. The pizza tastes processed, rushed, and devoid of soul. Not bad enough to throw away, but never good enough to crave again. It gets worse when you walk into one of their locations. The dining rooms are often sterile and impersonal, more like waiting rooms than places where people gather to enjoy a meal. Add to that a customer service record that's anything but friendly, and you've got a chain that survives not because it impresses, but because it's simply there. And somehow they're still growing, still opening new stores, still claiming their spot in the market as an alternative to better-known names. But calling it an alternative is misleading. It's more like settling for lukewarm pies, rubbery cheese, and a brand that long ago stopped earning its slogan. Papa John's has spent decades trying to prove it belongs at the top, but for many American families, all it's proven is that when you strip away the ads, the slogans, and the gimmicks, all you're left with is another cardboard pizza in a too bright box. Number 4, Panda Express. For a chain that boasts over 2,000 locations across the United States, you'd think Panda Express might have taken its role more seriously. It is, after all, the most recognizable name in Americanized Chinese food. You see the red and white logo in nearly every shopping mall, highway rest stop, and airport terminal. And for years, it served a very specific purpose: quick, hot, no-frills Chinese food that didn't ask questions and didn't pretend to be authentic. But even with those low expectations, Panda Express still manages to fall short so short. In fact, that many now wonder how it still exists at all. What's on the menu? Orange chicken, General Tso's, chow mein, fried rice, sweet and sour mystery sauces. If you've eaten at Panda Express before, you know exactly what you're getting: sugar-drenched protein, thick cornstarch glazes, and a generous dose of MSG in nearly everything. It's Chinese food designed for maximum output and minimum taste, and it shows. Long gone are the days when customers were satisfied with reheated stir-fry from a food court. Now, people want something fresh, affordable, and a little less like it was scooped out of a steam tray sitting under heat lamps since morning. And then there's the price. For what it is, mass-produced fast food that barely resembles the cuisine it claims to represent, Panda Express continues to raise prices, charging more for less. Many customers report smaller portions, soggier vegetables, and under-seasoned proteins. When you're paying over $10 for a plate of microwave noodles and oversauced chicken, it starts to feel less like a meal and more like a ripoff. But perhaps the most disappointing part is the damage done to the perception of Chinese cuisine itself. Chinese food, at its core, is one of the richest, most nuanced culinary traditions on Earth. What Panda Express offers is not a simplified version, it's a distorted one. It takes the name and imagery of a culture, strips away the complexity, and repackages it as something sugary, shallow, and cheap. It's not just low quality, it's an insult to the cuisine it pretends to represent. Panda Express didn't just fail to meet expectations. It never tried to exceed them in the first place. And in an age when customers are more food conscious, more culturally aware, and more demanding of quality, it's no surprise that this panda is slowly becoming extinct. Number 5, Sonic Drive-In. Sonic Drive-In didn't just sell food, it sold a feeling, a sense of nostalgia. With its retro 1950s-inspired drive-in setup, glowing neon signs, and smiling staff rolling up to your car on skates, Sonic captured a specific kind of Americana. It was a place where families could gather in their cars, order through the intercom, and pretend, if only for a few minutes, that the world hadn't changed so much. For that experience alone, Sonic earned a dedicated fan base across more than 3,000 locations in the United States. The brand cultivated loyalty by marketing itself not just as a restaurant, but as a time capsule. But once the food arrives, reality comes crashing in, and it hits hard. Because underneath the charming facade, Sonic is serving some of the most nutritionally bankrupt, heavily processed, and downright disappointing meals in the entire fast food landscape. Let's be clear, no one visits a drive-in expecting kale and quinoa, but even for comfort food, Sonic's offerings leave much to be desired. Their burgers are often soggy and lukewarm, the hot dogs rubbery and overly salty, and the fried items, especially the tots and onion rings, are consistently reported as greasy, stale, and suspiciously flavorless. What should be crispy ends up soggy, what should be savory ends up bland, and the aftermath. Many customers report feeling sluggish, bloated, and regretful not just physically, but emotionally. It's not just that the food is unhealthy, it's that it feels that way the moment you finish, like you've consumed a week's worth of calories, fat, and carbs in a single sitting and somehow didn't enjoy a bite of it. Freshness is almost never part of the equation. Most of what's on the tray was frozen hours or days ago, then dropped into a fryer and drowned in salt to make up for the lack of flavor. Sonic may bank on its retro image and quirky appeal, but that charm is wearing thin in a time when customers want transparency, quality, and at least a hint of nutritional balance. Sonic is stuck in the past, and not in a good way. It's not retro, it's regressive. The drive-in model might bring back memories, but the food is what brings customers back or pushes them away. And increasingly, they're choosing the latter. Number 6, Quiznos. Once hailed as the fresher, bolder cousin to Subway, Quiznos entered the American fast food scene in the early 1980s with something that felt different: hot, toasted subs, sharper flavors, and a menu that didn't shy away from variety. It was the chain that promised a step above the typical cold-cut sandwich, offering fresh herbs, artisan-style bread, and sauces that tasted like they came from an actual kitchen rather than a plastic packet. And for a moment in the early 2000s, it worked. At its peak, Quiznos had over 4,000 locations across the United States, with plans to expand even further. It was everywhere: airports, strip malls, downtown corners, and people genuinely believed they were getting something better. But that momentum didn't last. In fact, it collapsed faster than anyone expected. As it turns out, toasting bread and adding fancy dressing isn't enough to build a lasting empire over time. Quiznos began cutting corners. Ingredients that once felt premium started tasting suspiciously processed. The vibrant sauces became dull. The meat portions got thinner. The toppings lost their freshness. Slowly but surely, Quiznos started resembling the very competition it once tried to outdo, and in some cases, even worse. Then came the price tag. While Subway stuck to the $5 foot-long model and other competitors offered value deals, Quiznos stayed pricey, too pricey. Customers began asking themselves a simple question: why pay $9 or $10 for a warm sandwich that doesn't taste much better than what I can make at home? And when your business model can be undone by a loaf of bread, a microwave, and some cold cuts from the grocery store, it's time to worry. The problem wasn't just pricing, it was identity. Quiznos never adapted to changing food trends. As the market shifted toward health-conscious options, customizable bowls, gluten-free alternatives, and real transparency in ingredients, Quiznos stayed frozen in the past. No innovation, no reinvention, just toast and coast. And consumers noticed. The financial decline was steep. Between 2007 and 2017, Quiznos shuttered thousands of locations, over 90% of its stores. Franchises abandoned ship, customers disappeared, and even brand recognition began to fade. Today, most Americans haven't seen a Quiznos in years, if they do spot one. It's often a lonely outpost in a rest stop or outdated shopping center, clinging to relevance in a world that has clearly moved on. But what's perhaps most damning is this: the very thing Quiznos built its name on: hot. Toasted subs has now been replicated and improved by others. Chains like Jersey Mike's, Firehouse Subs, and even revamped versions of Subway now offer similar or better versions of what Quiznos once called its own. Without a distinct selling point, without standout quality, Quiznos is left offering sandwiches that feel like a compromised bland, overpriced, and entirely forgettable. What began as a fresh take on fast food turned into a cautionary tale. Quiznos didn't just fail to grow, it failed to justify why it existed in the first place. And in today's world of fast casual expectations, that's not just a mistake, it's a death sentence. Number 7, Red Robin. Red Robin was once the place you went to when you wanted something just a little more than fast food, but not quite fine dining. They marketed themselves as the Gourmet Burger Authority, with an atmosphere that felt casual but a notch above the average. With over 500 locations across the United States, mostly nestled inside or near suburban shopping malls, Red Robin made a name for itself with its bottomless steak fries, stacked burgers, and that familiar jingle echoing in ads. But what began as a playful burger haven has, in recent years, become a frustrating experience, one that no amount of fries can cover up. Let's start with what used to be their selling point: burgers. In a country where nearly every American knows what a good burger should taste like, Red Robin somehow misses the mark time and again, despite being marketed as gourmet. The patties often arrive dry, the toppings limp, the buns stale, and the flavor forgettable at best. It's not just that the food is average, it's that it proudly pretends to be more than that. When you promise a gourmet experience but deliver fast food quality at full-service prices, customers feel misled, and it seems they're not alone. According to the American Customer Satisfaction Index, Red Robin recently landed dead last in the full-service restaurant category. Customers have repeatedly voiced frustration over excessive wait times, chaotic dining rooms, and disappointing cleanliness. Being asked to wait 20 minutes for a table only to wait another 30 for a lukewarm burger has become more common than Red Robin would ever admit. To cut costs, they've experimented with cutting corners. Out went the busboys. In came high-tech kitchen screens and tablet-based ordering systems that were supposed to streamline the dining experience. But for many older and less tech-savvy customers, the result was confusion and irritation. Instead of creating efficiency, Red Robin created frustration. The technology faltered, the service slowed further, and the dining experience lost even the faint illusion of polish. Then came the marketing misfires. One particularly cringeworthy ad portrayed vegetarianism as a teenage phase, comparing it to a girl going through rebellion. It wasn't edgy, it was tone-deaf. In an age where consumers value inclusivity, respect, and food diversity, Red Robin came off as smug and outdated. That kind of messaging alienated more than just vegetarians. It suggested that the brand didn't understand or respect the very customers it was trying to reach. And all of this is happening as Red Robin sits anchored in one of retail's biggest sinking ships, the American shopping mall. With foot traffic declining and suburban malls losing relevance, Red Robin's location strategy is turning into an economic liability. Their financials reflect the fallout. Operating losses have continued to mount, and attempts to revive the brand have largely failed to gain traction. What's most painful is that the failure didn't have to happen. Americans still love burgers. They still go out to eat. But what they want is value, consistency, and respect for their time. Red Robin chose instead to blur the line between fast food and full service without delivering the best of either world. In doing so, it lost its identity and worse, its customers. Number 8, Sbarro. For a chain that once called itself the original New York pizza, Sbarro has spent the last 2 decades turning that claim into something of a national punchline. You've seen it wedged into airport food courts, gas station rest stops, outdated malls, and places you only end up when you're desperate, tired, and not expecting much. In the 1980s and 1990s, Sbarro was briefly a reliable comfort food spot, serving hot slices to travelers and mall goers alike. At its peak, it had over 1,000 locations worldwide. But in today's pizza-saturated world, where regional joints and chain competitors are upping their game, Sbarro feels like a relic stuck in time and stubbornly unwilling to evolve. Let's start with the obvious, the pizza. This isn't New York style, no matter how loudly they brand it. The crust is thick and bland, more cardboard than dough. The tomato sauce tastes like it came straight out of a bargain can sweet, acidic, and strangely baby food-like. The cheese is overprocessed, rubbery, and slides right off the slice the moment it cools. As for the toppings, they're sparse, industrial, and as greasy as motor oil. Even a basic pepperoni slice from Sbarro can leave your hands glistening like you just changed a tire. It's a meal that doesn't satisfy, it just fills space. And that's exactly how Sbarro operates as filler. It exists to catch you when there's nothing better nearby. Not because you wanted pizza, but because there were no other options. That might have worked decades ago. But in 2025, it's a disaster. Americans have more access to good pizza than ever before. Local spots, fast casual upstarts, wood-fired options, gluten-free crusts, and artisan slices have become the norm. Sbarro's greasy, Cafeteria-style pies just don't stand a chance in that kind of environment. Then there's the health aspect or lack thereof. A single slice of their pepperoni pizza packs in over 500 milligrams of sodium, more than half the daily recommended limit. And that's just one slice. Their pastas are loaded with salt and oil, and even the salads come drenched in high-fat dressings. It's a meal designed not with flavor or balance in mind, but pure caloric volume. The kind of meal you regret immediately after eating. And yet, despite all this, the prices continue to climb, as if the quality has earned it. It hasn't. Sbarro's problem isn't just food, it's relevance. The locations feel old and uninviting. Many haven't been renovated in years. The trays, the plastic utensils, the sad heat lamps, it all screams of a chain that gave up on trying long ago. In a time when customers are demanding freshness, transparency, and variety, Sbarro still serves up the same reheated rectangles under a flickering sign. And it shows. Even the business side tells a story of collapse. Sbarro filed for bankruptcy not once, but twice in 2011 and again in 2014. Hundreds of locations closed. The brand tried to rebrand with new logos, new slogans, even authentic Italian street food in some pilot stores. But the core product never changed. Because at the heart of Sbarro's failure is one undeniable truth: if your food isn't good, no marketing campaign can save you. The truth is, Americans no longer need to settle for this. The days of grabbing a soggy slice under a food court skylight are coming to an end. What used to be tolerated is now being rejected. Customers want flavor, value, and pride in what they eat. Sbarro once claimed to be New York pizza, but real New York pizza has passion, flavor, and respect for tradition. Sbarro. It has reheated regret. Number 9. Long John Silver's. Once a familiar stop for working families across America, Long John Silver's made its name on one promise: affordable seafood. Fast. Founded in the heart of Kentucky in the late 1960s. The brand grew quickly, with hundreds of locations springing up across the country. For a generation, it was a rare sight, a seafood restaurant that didn't cost an arm and a leg, available even in towns far from any coast. It promised crispy fried fish, golden hush puppies, and a taste of something different from the usual burgers and fries. But somewhere between nostalgia and modern expectations, Long John Silver's lost its course. The problems start with the food itself. Everything tastes as if it came straight from a freezer into a vat of industrial oil. Most items, fish fillets, shrimp, chicken planks, even onion rings, are deep fried beyond recognition. The texture is often more crunch than substance, masking the reality that much of it is processed, low-grade seafood farmed in questionable conditions overseas. The result is a meal that's heavy, greasy, and overwhelmingly salty. In an era where more Americans are demanding transparency, freshness, and healthier choices, Long John Silver's stands out for all the wrong reasons, and the health concerns are not an exaggeration. In 2013, the Center for Science and the Public Interest made headlines when it named Long John Silver's big catch meal, their haddock fillet, hush puppies, and fried onion rings as the worst restaurant meal in America. Why? Because a single meal packed in over 1,300 calories, 33 grams of trans fat, and more sodium than any human being should consume in a day. That wasn't just alarming, it was dangerous. The backlash was swift. Public health advocates criticized the chain for serving meals that could do real harm, especially to seniors and those with heart conditions. In response, Long John Silver's announced in 2014 that they would eliminate trans fats from their cooking oil. A good move on paper, but one that did little to address the real issue: the food was still packed with saturated fat, excessive sodium, and nearly no nutritional value. Fried on fried on fried isn't a meal, it's a warning label. Even more telling is the existence of a secret menu item they call cracklins, which, for clarity, are simply pieces of excess deep-fried batter that have fallen off the fish during cooking. That's right, they serve the leftover fried bits as a standalone snack, and some customers actually ask for them. It's a perfect symbol of what this brand has become: a tribute to deep-fried excess, proudly offering the crumbs at the bottom of the fryer as if they were treasure. The dining rooms tell the same story. Most locations feel dated, with sticky booths, fading signage, and the lingering smell of grease hanging in the air. The service often lags behind modern chains, and the ambiance feels more like a memory of the 1980s than a place anyone under 40 would choose willingly today. even when you do order. Many customers report inconsistencies in portion sizes, food temperature, and wait times. Financially, the brand has been floundering, once boasting over 200 stores. Long John Silver's has steadily shrunk its footprint over the last 2 decades. Closures have become common, especially in urban markets where healthier and more diverse dining options dominate. Attempts at menu innovation have fallen flat, and rebranding efforts haven't stuck. The company still tries to present itself as a nostalgic treat, but fewer Americans are buying it literally. At a time when the fast food industry is rapidly evolving, adding plant-based items, cleaner ingredients, and faster digital ordering, Long John Silver's feels like it's clinging to the past. But this isn't just about being old-fashioned. It's about refusing to change while pretending everything's fine. That strategy might have worked in 1985. It doesn't work in 2025. In a world where fast food once promised consistency and comfort, too many chains have now traded quality for convenience. What's left on the table isn't just greasy food, it's broken trust. If these brands want to stay relevant, they'll need to earn back the respect they lost. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we start choosing better. Which chain disappointed you the most and which one still deserves a chance?